Every man speaks, but few command attention. You've been told to be honest, to open up and communicate your feelings. Yet, you do, she loses interest. Why? Because communication without strategy is submission. In this video, we uncover the Machiavellian art of speaking to women, not to please them, but to dominate their minds. By the end, you will know how to talk in a way that commands respect, fascination, and control. Welcome to Machiavelli Mirrors, where ancient wisdom meets modern power. Here we don't chase validation. We study influence. We understand that love, attraction, and desire are governed by strategy, not chance. Today, we enter the world of Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of psychological warfare, and learn how to speak not from emotion, but from authority. Machiavelli understood something most men still fail to grasp: that words are not instruments of honesty, they are weapons of influence. The weak man speaks to express himself, the strong man speaks to direct the minds of others. Every phrase, every silence, every subtle change in tone can alter how a woman perceives you. And perception, my friend, is where power begins. When you talk to a woman, your goal is not to impress her with emotion or honesty. Your goal is to make her feel something she cannot fully define. You do not explain who you are. You allow her curiosity to fill in the blanks. The modern man believes that vulnerability builds connection, but Machiavelli would say that unfiltered emotion reveals weakness. The more you talk without purpose, the easier you are to read, and the easier you are to manipulate. Strategic speech begins before you even open your mouth. It starts in your silence, in the way you observe her body language, her tone, her rhythm. You don't rush to fill the air with noise. You let silence create tension, because tension builds value. When you finally speak, your words carry weight because they emerge from restraint. A man who pauses before speaking appears thoughtful, composed, and in control. He does not seek approval from her reaction. He commands it through calm certainty. Machiavelli would have advised princes to speak little but decisively, leaving others uncertain of their full intentions. The same principle applies here. The man who reveals everything becomes predictable, and predictability kills attraction. Your speech must remain layered, a mix of clarity and suggestion. When she asks a direct question, answer with precision but leave room for mystery. When she compliments you, don't deflect nervously. Acknowledge it with quiet confidence, as if her approval is expected, not needed. The art of speech is not in what you say, in what you withhold. Your restraint becomes an aura. It forces her to invest mentally, to wonder what you're thinking, to interpret your calmness as superiority. If you speak too much, she listens less. If you speak strategically, she leans in, trying to decode your words. Think of conversation as a chess game. Every sentence should either advance your position or guard your control. Idle chatter weakens your presence. Focused dialogue strengthens it. You never argue to prove a point. You suggest, you guide. You make her see your perspective without feeling forced. When you speak with intention, you become the conductor of her attention. Even your tone must carry strategy. Too much enthusiasm, and you appear eager. Too flat, and you lose emotional tension. Your voice should flow with calm authority. Low, deliberate, slightly detached. It signals that you are not seeking connection but commanding it. When she laughs, you don't rush to join her laughter. You hold a faint smile, a trace of intrigue, as if you know something she doesn't. That subtle imbalance creates psychological magnetism. Machiavelli knew that leaders must appear virtuous, but act according to necessity. Likewise, in speech, you may appear open and charming, but behind the charm lies calculation. You listen to her words not for empathy, but for strategy. Every story she tells reveals where her attention drifts, where her ego hides, where her validation thrives. You use that information to shape the rhythm of your responses, to keep her engaged but never fully comfortable. A Machiavellian man doesn't speak to fill silence. He speaks to create direction. His compliments are rare and ambiguous. His humor is controlled and timed to shift emotional momentum. His speech makes her question her own composure. She begins to feel that she's being guided, not manipulated, drawn in by something deliberate and powerful. Most men talk to connect, few talk to command attention. The difference lies in intention. One seeks comfort, the other seeks control. In the art of strategic speech, your words become architecture, carefully designed, elegantly restrained, impossible to ignore. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because it belongs to everybody to see you, to few to come in touch with you." In other words, people do not respond to truth. They respond to perception. The same law governs how women experience you. They don't fall for who you are, they fall for what they perceive you to be. Truth may win hearts in poetry, but in life, it is perception that commands desire. When you talk to a woman, remember this: the image you project matters more than the facts you share. If you tell her you are confident, she won't believe you. But if your tone, your posture, your pacing carry quiet certainty, she will feel your confidence before she ever hears it. This is why Machiavelli insisted that appearance is more powerful than honesty, because people do not see your intentions, they only feel your presence. Most men destroy their own power by over-explaining themselves. They talk too much, trying to justify their past, their goals, their worth. But every time you explain, you admit that your words need validation. The Machiavellian man speaks less and lets the silence imply authority. He knows that mystery is stronger than confession. When a woman tries to understand him, he never rushes to clarify, because confusion is not a threat, it's a tool. The moment she starts wondering about you, she is already emotionally invested. Truth without control is weakness. It leaves you vulnerable to interpretation. But perception is crafted. You decide how much warmth to show, when to reveal softness, when to appear distant. A man who controls perception can appear kind without being naive, confident without being arrogant, romantic without being desperate. It is not deceit, it is strategy. Machiavelli never told men to lie. He taught them to manage impressions. And impressions, once formed, are far more powerful than truth ever could be. Consider this: when you walk into a room, before you speak a single word, people already form judgments. A glance, a posture, a tone, all of it shapes their sense of who you are. The same happens in conversation. When you speak with emotional steadiness, she assumes strength. When you respond with patience, she assumes depth. When you look away calmly after she challenges you, she assumes mystery. None of these are truths. They are perceptions born from how you handle the moment. The goal is not to be known, but to be felt. You must learn to sculpt your image like a craftsman, never overexposing, never overselling. If she believes she has figured you out too quickly, the intrigue dies. But if she feels there's more beneath the surface, her mind begins to orbit around you. Machiavelli would call this the politics of appearance, a system where control comes not from words, but from impression management. The modern man often believes that honesty is the foundation of attraction. He confesses everything, thinking transparency will build trust. Too much transparency kills mystery. Women are drawn to discovery, not delivery. You must let her earn your truths piece by piece. Give her fragments, not full stories. She doesn't need to know everything. She needs to wonder what she doesn't know. Every unanswered question strengthens your psychological gravity. Machiavelli would have advised, it is not necessary to be truly virtuous, only to appear so. Applied to speech, this means your words should suggest qualities, not announce them. Don't tell her you're ambitious. Let your discipline show in your tone. Don't insist you're confident. Let your calm silence say it for you. The less you proclaim, the more powerful your image becomes. When she challenges your character, don't defend, deflect gracefully. When she tests your composure, stay still. When she praises you, accept with minimal reaction. Every subtle choice reinforces your frame. You are not defined by her opinion, that your sense of self is internal, untouchable. That perception, once anchored, becomes magnetic. Truth can make a man admirable. Perception makes him unforgettable. A Machiavellian man speaks not to reveal himself, but to shape how he is seen. His power lies not in what is real, in what feels real to others. Machiavelli understood that human emotion is not logical, it is reactive. People, especially in matters of attraction, do not fall for what is consistent, they fall for what is unpredictable. Predictability breeds comfort, and comfort kills fascination. The mind does not crave peace, it craves movement. Emotional contrast, the dance between warmth and distance, is what keeps a woman intrigued. When you are too available, she feels secure but uninspired. When you are too cold, she feels challenged but disconnected. When you master the balance, when you can shift smoothly between intensity and restraint, you awaken her imagination. To dominate a woman's mind, you must understand how to control her emotional rhythm. You are not merely speaking to her ears. You are speaking to her nervous system. Machiavelli would call this the manipulation of perception through controlled tension. One moment, you make her feel seen. The next, you make her question if she still has your attention. You give her the sweetness of validation, then the sharp edge of silence. This is not cruelty. It is the architecture of desire. Without contrast, there can be no intensity. Imagine a conversation where you give her your full presence, your gaze steady, your tone soft, your energy grounded. She feels a sense of connection, maybe even comfort. Then, at the height of that warmth, you pull back slightly. You check your phone, you pause, you let silence stretch. In that moment, her mind rushes to fill the void. Did I say something wrong? Did his attention shift? That uncertainty, that brief emotional imbalance, triggers attraction far deeper than compliments ever could, because now she is thinking about you when you are no longer speaking. That is dominance, not over her will, but over her focus. Machiavelli would remind you that power depends on the ability to create both hope and fear. In relationships, that translates into emotional polarity. You are kind, but not soft. You are interested, but not invested. You give enough to make her feel safe, but never enough to make her feel secure in her control over you. The moment she knows exactly how you feel, she stops wondering. The mystery dies, and with it, her fascination. Your unpredictability is not chaos. It is control disguised as spontaneity. Mystery is the shadow of power. It is what keeps others leaning forward, trying to understand you. Most men destroy mystery by oversharing, explaining their every thought, trying to prove sincerity. But Machiavelli would say that sincerity, when unguarded, is a form of weakness. A man of power reveals fragments, never the full picture. He answers questions with precision but leaves something unsaid. He allows pauses to exist, pauses that make her mind wander. Because curiosity is the seed of emotional attachment. Emotional contrast also means knowing when to shift tone. There are moments when calm detachment commands respect, and moments when quiet intensity draws her in. Your voice, your expressions, your energy, they must move like a pendulum, unpredictable yet deliberate. Too steady, and you become boring. Too erratic, and you lose control. But the man who can move between warmth and indifference without losing composure becomes hypnotic. He embodies both safety and danger, the dual forces that define attraction. A Machiavellian man never gives full emotional security. He gives her attention, but only in doses that increase her appetite. When she feels she understands him, he subtly shifts. When she feels distance, he reappears with calm interest. This rhythm keeps her engaged, unsure, and emotionally invested. It is not about playing games. It is about maintaining polarity. Without it, connection fades into familiarity, and familiarity breeds indifference. In conversation, you use emotional contrast the same way a painter uses light and shadow. Every bright moment of charm must be followed by a pause, a retreat into silence or subtle detachment. Every compliment must be balanced with an observation that challenges her. You are not there to please. You are there to stimulate. You become the mirror she cannot fully see herself in, and that mystery keeps her searching for her reflection in your eyes. Machiavelli would say that men who wish to be loved must also be feared, not in the sense of intimidation, but in the sense of emotional gravity. She must know that your attention is precious, that it can be given and withdrawn. Your presence must carry the quiet reminder that she could lose your focus at any time. Fear keeps desire alive. That uncertainty keeps fascination burning. Machiavelli once wrote that the wise prince listens to all, but decides alone. In other words, listening is not a gift. It is a strategy. Most men listen to women with the intent to please, to relate, to show that they care. But the Machiavellian man listens with purpose. He is not trying to connect emotionally. He is gathering intelligence. Every word, every tone, every hesitation she gives is a clue to how she thinks, what she fears, and what she desires. While others are eager to speak, he observes quietly, collecting details that later allow him to shape the direction of the entire interaction. The ordinary man believes talking gives him control, but in truth, the one who listens rules the conversation. When you allow her to speak freely, you hand her the illusion of power. She feels comfortable, expressive, unguarded. But while she reveals herself, you remain unreadable. Machiavelli would call this the advantage of concealment. You show her attention, but not emotion. She feels seen, yet she cannot see you. This imbalance of openness and restraint is the essence of psychological dominance. When she talks, don't just hear her words. Listen to her patterns. Does she speak with certainty or hesitation? Does she use humor to deflect seriousness or silence to test your response? Her language exposes her priorities. The topics she repeats reveal what matters most to her. The emotions she avoids reveal her wounds. This is not empathy. It is reconnaissance. You are not listening to comfort. You are listening to understand where her ego lives. And once you know that, you control how she feels around you. Machiavelli understood that people crave acknowledgement more than truth. A woman who feels heard becomes emotionally dependent on the listener. The secret is to give her that feeling, to nod, to maintain eye contact, to ask questions that make her believe you care, while never actually surrendering your frame. You acknowledge but do not absorb. You reflect her emotions like a mirror, never letting them penetrate your composure. This creates a quiet tension. She feels emotionally exposed while you remain perfectly still. That stillness fascinates her, because she cannot tell if you are deeply engaged or completely detached. The Machiavellian man uses silence as his sharpest tool. When she finishes speaking, he doesn't rush to fill the space with reassurance. He lets the silence linger just long enough to make her wonder what he's thinking. In that moment of uncertainty, her mind starts to chase your approval. That chase is not about romance, it's about control. You've shifted her focus from expression to reflection. Now, she is reacting to you. Listening strategically also means knowing what to ignore. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every emotion requires comfort. When she complains or tests your patience, you don't react defensively. You absorb the moment like a stone absorbs sunlight, without cracking, without commentary. This composure signals that her words cannot shake your foundation. And the moment she realizes that her emotions no longer control the mood, she begins to see you as something rare, a man she cannot easily influence. Machiavelli would remind us that power is not seized through aggression, but maintained through restraint. The man who speaks less learns more. The man who listens deeply commands the rhythm of interaction. When you let her talk freely, you invite her to reveal her values, her doubts, and her patterns of thought. You learn where she feels strong and where she seeks validation. Later, you can use that knowledge, gently, intelligently, to guide her emotions toward you. The most dangerous mistake men make is confusing listening with agreement. You can validate her experience without surrendering your position. You can understand her without becoming influenced by her feelings. True control comes when she believes you are emotionally in tune with her while you remain completely detached inside. That paradox, empathy on the surface, calculation underneath, is the mark of a Machiavellian communicator. The moment she realizes you hear her more clearly than others, she begins to trust you. But that trust, built on perception, is also dependence. She starts to seek your reactions, your silence, your approval. And while she speaks from emotion, you move from observation. That is how listening transforms from politeness into power. Machiavelli believed that a ruler must never allow his emotions to rule him. He must appear compassionate but act from calculation. In love, as in politics, the same law applies. The moment a man becomes emotionally dependent, he loses command over perception, and therefore over power. Detachment is not cruelty, it is control. It is the art of standing in the fire of emotion without burning. A Machiavellian man does not suppress his feelings. He simply refuses to let them dictate his behavior. That cold edge of restraint becomes his shield, his weapon, and his greatest form of allure. Women are not drawn to chaos, they are drawn to composure. The calm man represents safety in a world of noise. But more than safety, he represents discipline. The rare ability to feel deeply without reacting impulsively. When she tests you, challenges you, withdraws from you, the ordinary man panics. He argues, explains, tries to win her back through emotion. The Machiavellian man, however, stays still. He understands that the one who needs less always holds the advantage. By remaining composed in uncertainty, he silently communicates strength. The kind of strength that commands both respect and curiosity. Detachment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you decide what deserves your energy. When she tries to provoke you, you do not defend. When she pulls away, you do not chase. Your lack of reaction becomes a mirror that reflects her own insecurity. She begins to feel the weight of her actions while you remain unmoved. Machiavelli would have said, "He who depends on the goodwill of others builds his house on the wind." In relationships, that means your stability must come from within, not from her affection. The more unpredictable your emotions, the weaker your influence becomes. But when your responses are calm, measured, and intentional, she senses power in your silence. The Machiavellian man never begs for clarity. He lets uncertainty test her loyalty. He knows that real dominance is quiet. It does not shout. It does not plead. It simply endures. And that endurance creates psychological tension. She starts to wonder what could possibly shake you. That question alone gives you power over her thoughts. Detachment also means mastering your tone. You never raise your voice, never overreact, never speak faster under pressure. Your calm delivery tells her that no emotional outburst can alter your direction. When she becomes emotional, you lower your energy. When she grows quiet, you slow your pace even more. In every interaction, your stillness becomes the anchor. It makes her realize that while others seek her approval, you are content within yourself. That realization doesn't just attract her. It unsettles her because it places her in unfamiliar territory. She cannot control what she cannot emotionally predict. Machiavelli taught that men who appear calm in conflict gain both fear and admiration. A woman feels both when she meets a man whose emotions are under complete control. She may try to provoke him, to test if the ice will crack. And when it doesn't, she begins to respect him in ways she can't explain. His silence becomes louder than any declaration. His restraint becomes magnetic. The colder he stays under pressure, the warmer her curiosity grows. The cold edge of detachment is not about arrogance. It's about discipline. It's about understanding that affection loses value when it is desperate. That desire becomes stronger when it's not easily granted. A Machiavellian man gives affection like a reward, not a request. When she earns your attention, she feels chosen. When she doesn't, she feels challenged. Either way, you remain in control of the emotional dynamic. Detachment also protects you from manipulation. Many women, consciously or not, test men through emotional volatility. They push, withdraw, provoke, and observe how you respond. Every reaction reveals how much control you have over yourself. When you remain unshaken, the test ends. She realizes her influence has limits, and paradoxically, that makes her more invested. The moment she feels that your approval cannot be easily gained, she begins to crave it. Machiavelli would say that fortune favors the man who can command himself. Detachment is that command, the ability to walk away when needed, to stay silent when tempted, to maintain presence when others would collapse. It is the quiet confidence that your worth does not depend on her attention, your identity does not depend on her affection, and your emotions do not dictate your authority. Machiavelli, that power does not belong to the strongest or the loudest. It belongs to the one who understands human nature and bends it with precision. To talk to women and dominate their mind is not about manipulation in the crude sense. It is about mastering yourself first. The man who can control his words, his emotions, and his image holds an invisible authority that others can feel but cannot explain. Through strategic speech, you learn that every word has weight. Through the mastery of perception, you realize that truth matters less than how truth appears. Through emotional contrast, you discover that mystery sustains desire. Through strategic listening, you gain the upper hand without ever raising your voice. And through detachment, you become untouchable. A man whose power cannot be taken because it does not depend on anyone's validation. Women, like all people, are drawn to strength, not just physical, but psychological strength. The strength to stay silent when others speak. The strength to remain calm when tested. The strength to walk away when necessary. That strength is what Machiavelli would have called vert. The disciplined force of will that shapes both love and power. When you speak to a woman as a Machiavellian man, you do not try to convince her, you influence her. You do not seek to be understood. You become the one she strives to understand. You communicate not from need, but from control. You become the center of the emotional field, the axis around which her attention turns. Remember, in every interaction, someone leads and someone follows. Someone speaks to express and someone speaks to command. The difference is never in what is said, but in how it is said, with strategy, restraint, and quiet certainty. Machiavelli's wisdom reminds us that power in words is not about dominance over another person, but mastery over oneself. When you learn to govern your speech, your tone, and your presence, you no longer chase influence, you embody it. And that is when you stop talking to women merely to be liked, and start speaking in a way that makes you remembered.